Dewey's out roaming again. On my channel today, I want to talk about a murder trial that I was involved in, and it concluded yesterday. I was only involved in it from a friend, family perspective. I wasn't a witness or a suspect, anything like that. So I'm not going to say any names, but I will give you a pretty good explanation of how it transpired. In early 2024, last year, early on in the year, a friend of mine, her son, went to an apartment party in the western area of Toronto, and subsequently got into an altercation with three people within the apartment, and it led to a physical altercation. And the three people ganged up on I'm just going to say my friend, because I knew him when he was a young kid too. He's a good kid. And they subsequently beat him to death. Blunt force trauma took his life. So the three people that were involved, there was two witnesses, two female witnesses. They were not good witnesses. They had dependency issues, and their recollection of what happened was contradictory to one another, and at times to the forensic examiner and the police investigation. So anyhow, of the three people that were involved, two people were arrested. One person was arrested at the scene. Another person was arrested 2 days later. So the third person fled the country from the information that was provided through the Crown Attorney and the police. So the two suspects that were arrested, one was of Somali ancestry, the other person was of Iraqi ancestry. They are the people that are in custody. The third person that escaped, that is at large to this day, is of Somali ancestry as well. Now, the two Somali guys were out on bail at the time of this homicide. The Iraqi guy had no prior criminal record. So all of us went to court for the preliminary hearings. Then during the preliminary hearings, you had witness testimony, you had police testimony, you had medical examiner testimony, you had defense counsel putting forth their defense case, you had the prosecution putting forth the Crown's case. So it was determined during the preliminary hearings that it wasn't going to go to trial. They were going to accept a plea from second-degree murder to manslaughter. The two individuals, one individual is 27 years old, the Somali guy, and the Iraqi guy is 51 years old. So it was determined that, like I said, they accepted a plea bargain. So yesterday was sentencing day. So it was about 3 weeks ago. We went to court. A victim impact statement was read from the family, and it put. We were in court the whole time, right? There was always a representative from the deceased family side in court, and the judge. And I will say this: the judge took note of that. He actually commented on it. The two Crown attorneys that prosecuted this case were very good. I'm not going to mention any of their names. I know all their names, but I'm not going to mention it. They were excellent. The cops that testified. Well, there was two cops that testified. One was a cop that was with the force for about 2 years, and the other one was like a 12-year veteran. And the cop that was on the force for 2 years, this is out of 12 division, good testimony. Even one of the detectives in the gallery with us, you could tell he was impressed with the rookie, or the younger cop. I wouldn't call him a rookie, 2 years. His testimony was good. The 12-year veteran, I would literally classify his testimony with the two unreliable witnesses. He was, this cop was something. But anyhow, so I will tell you what the Crown was asking for 10 years, a sentence of 10 years. Now, bear in mind, These two guys have been in pre-trial custody and pre-sentencing custody since early 2024. So almost 2 years they've been in pre-trial, pre-sentencing custody. So they haven't been released. They didn't get bonded out, anything like that. So anyhow, hold on a second. Morning. Morning. How you doing, buddy? How you doing? How you doing? So so that was one good thing for myself and the family, right? Like, these guys, once they got arrested, they weren't let go. They didn't get a chance to flee the country like the third suspect. So it was determined during the trial as well that the third suspect that's at large possessed the most culpability within the beating. And so, but regardless, they all played a large role in the death. So anyhow, the judge came back. He read his statement, which I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting the judge to read such a lengthy statement. He went over the facts. He put in some other case study with regards to sentencing. And so yeah, so the Crown was asking for a 10-year sentence for both of them. And the defense, they had separate female lawyers, both of them. The defense was asking for a 6-year term. So yesterday the judge came back and he rendered an 8.5-year sentence for both of them. Now in Canada, there are a couple recent additions to the legal system and there's various different names for it. Some people call it restorative justice. There's a couple other names, whereas the person's culture, the person's background, how they were raised, did they have substance abuse, how was their home life, what country did they come from, all plays into sentencing. So, and this trial was no different. The defense read out that the Somali individual, you know, he had a rough upbringing. His mother was a drug addict. The suspect was a drug addict. He endured beatings from his mother. They said he knew his father. He rekindled a relationship with his father since he's been in pretrial custody, but his father wasn't at court ever. So I don't know what that was all about. Then they said the Iraqi guy, he fled a war-torn country in Iraq in late 90s. He came from an affluent family, an educated family, but then they painted the picture of the Iraqi guy where they couldn't conclude if he understood or could read and write English, but he's been a Canadian citizen since 2000. So that was misleading. I'm not going to say it was a lie because I never spoke to either one of these two dirtbags, but you know, they obviously got to paint their defense picture, but you know, they're not always truthful, right? So the judge rendered an 8.5-year sentence, and with time served, for every day they served in pre-trial, they get a day and a half credit for their federal sentence. So they go from a provincial jail, they're in the GTA area, well, they were yesterday, I don't know where they are now, but they get a day and a half. So for every, just say they've been in like a year or 9 months, they get a day and a half for that. So they get another, they're approximately going to do another 5.5 years, let's say, but now in federal. So now in federal, if you keep clean and you attend all the programs, and apparently one of them, the Iraqi guy's on methadone to this day in jail to get off the drugs he was on almost 2 years later. So these guys were, you know, very hardcore drug users. So we were talking yesterday amongst ourselves, my friends and the victim's mother, and we're thinking that these guys, if they don't get into problems in prison, in federal prison, they will be out in between 3.5, say 4 years, right? So they got to do another 3.5, 4 years. So the way the witnesses were in this case, you know, we thought, the family and myself we were okay with the 8.5 years. Like I said, the judge, which I did a little research on afterwards, he's a pretty solid guy, and apparently the Crown attorneys that we had, a male and female, they were really solid too. So I have no complaints there. The way the investigation was handled, yeah, no complaints. And I've done some research on it. But the third guy fleeing the country, yeah, that was a little suspect. how does a guy get out of the country that quick? But we're thinking, and the cops aren't forthcoming with, or the Crown aren't forthcoming with any information with regards to that guy. We know who he is. We know his name, and I got a picture of him and everything. He's from, he's not too far from this area. So if I happen to run into him one day, you guys know what I'll do. But yeah, so they, our speculation, just amongst ourselves, not including the police or the Crown Attorney or anything, that he went across the border in Buffalo, or he went across a land border, a land crossing, then got an airplane out of the U.S. back to Somalia. But we don't know that for sure. He could still be in the GTA area. There's a big Somali population in Edmonton. There's a big Somali population in Minnesota. So who knows? Who knows? Hopefully one day he resurfaces, and I would think when he resurfaces, you know, well, you know for sure they're gonna, if he gets arrested, he's got to go to trial. You got to go through all this again. It's very hard to go through this to see the system. And that's where I'm going to now. The building that we were in was built in 2021. It's the Ontario Court of Justice. It's right behind New City Hall. I believe it's on Armory Street, but right behind Mayor Chow's office. And it's a huge building, purpose built. It's only, you know, 5 years old, thereabouts, 4 or 5 years old. And you know, it's very secure. You go through metal detectors. You have to put your, like, I brought my crossover yesterday. And you have to put it through an x-ray machine. So yeah, it's like all courts this day and age, right? They're secure. They don't want any problems in there. But you know, you look around in this court, and literally you think to yourself, and this, you know, I don't really care how this comes across, but you look at the demographic of the people that are there, and you would think to yourself, if the immigration system and the legal system was tighter on both accounts, this building wouldn't even be needed. So what I'm saying is, it's a lot of young people there. Mostly they would identify as non-white, mostly, but I would say 90%. And yeah, and you can tell by, you know, like, guys, I'm not a gang banging street level thug, okay, but I've had those crossovers in my life, which I mentioned in my last video. So I am not alien to any sort of street life. That's furthest from the truth. I know what's going on. I don't know everything that's going on. I don't want to know everything that's going on. But you can, you know, when you take a look at a person, and especially in a court, a large court building environment, you know, you should never judge a book by its cover. I understand that old saying, but these people, I don't know. It's keeping a lot of people employed. It's keeping the wheels of justice greased. let's put it that way. But so hopefully, it's unfortunate that the third person is still at large. But you know, you think, you know, do I want to go through that again? And even not even so much for me, but for the mother, right? The mother, like, obviously it's her child that's gone now. But you look at this and you think, hopefully I don't have to go through this again. But you know what? If they catch the third person, you know what? You want to go through it again, because you want to see that guy get justice as well. So it's something a lot of people haven't experienced in their life, how the legal system works, especially this day and age, and I'm one of them. Now, in an upcoming video, I've touched on it before, I will be talking about a first-degree murder case that I was directly involved in, where at first they thought I was a suspect. So, but it turned out I wasn't, and I knew I wasn't, obviously. So I will talk about that in a separate video. But yeah, in this case, it turned out acceptable, the end result for us, other than the third victim. So, and you hear a lot of, you know, nightmarish cases, whereas, you know, charges are dropped, it takes too long to go to court. You know, they don't get any sort of, they go to trial, and it's determined that the witnesses that are there are no good, or they don't show up, and they get released. So we are happy that they got 8.5 years. So that's what I'm going to say about that today. you got any questions, comments, or concerns, or you have any experiences from going to court for any sort of anything, you know, because there's, you know, obviously these courts aren't just for homicide trials and stuff like that, but put it in the comment section, and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching. Bye.